Welcome to A Survivor's Guide to Hell, where we challenge our listeners to take a closer look at the bright side of things. Negative news media can hurt your mind. Studies suggest that consuming negative media has a way of amping up the stress hormones in your brain, which can make you feel fatigued, depressed, anxious, and sleepless. Bad news is more likely to make front-page headlines than good news. But at Survivor's Guide to Hell, we take a different approach. Each week, we select a difficult topic, then use that theme to help you laugh, help you find a bright side, or even change your perspective for the better. We want to improve your mood, your character, and your mental health with a healthy dose of silver linings. We are so happy you found us. Today, our unpleasant topic is extinction. Even with phrases like global warming, plastic pollution, and Amazon clear-cutting, the phrase that makes conservationists, hippies, and general animal lovers cringe most is human-driven species extinction. Those who are untrained in natural history may presume that the extinction of a species is a rare event. However, scientists estimate that somewhere between 200 and 2,000 species go extinct every year. That's about 2 species every 3 days on the optimistic end of things, or 5.5 every single day on the dreary side of things. Though many extinctions are a natural part of the Earth's evolution, researchers agree that today's extinction rate is hundreds to thousands of times larger than the Earth's natural baseline rate. This decline is readily attributed to plastic pollution, carbon emission, clear-cutting, and other man-made issues that threaten the animals of the world. If you peer over the brink of extinction, you won't just see dinosaurs in the pit below. You'll find a lamentable collection of incredible creatures, like stellar sea cow, a manatee-like creature that grew 30 feet long and was easily hunted because of its gentle nature. Its estimated date of extinction? 1768. The Galapagos' iconic and enormous Pinta giant tortoise is another animal that we will never see again, with its last member's death in 2012. In 2020 alone, 65 North American plants were declared extinct, 22 species of frog, and 17 of Lake Lanao's freshwater fish. Many of these species existed for thousands of years, with their timeline ending so recently that you may have seen some of them living happily in the footage of a recent documentary. It's a dismal thought, knowing that we will almost certainly never see some of these awe-inspiring plants and animals, especially the ones that could still walk, swim, or peck the earth if we'd only exercised a little more caution. Remember that giant Galapagos tortoise? It may still be around if goats had never been artificially introduced to the island to scarf the food supply. However, there is a glimmer of hope on this bleak-looking brink, and it shimmers in some unexpected ways. Keep listening for 4 incredible stories of animals who have flirted with the brink of extinction, but aren't done fighting yet. Number 1, the Pyrenees ibex, killed by a tree, saved by a clone. Once in the Pyrenees Mountains, tucked near the border of France and Spain, a single Bucardo mountain goat wandered a lonely path through its rocky home. It was a female Pyrenees ibex, and like her parents, this goat was designed to find a male, to mate, and to make little goats. I wonder if this instinct made the she-goat lonely, as she picked her way across the Pyrenees. The animal, after all, had the most unenviable title a species member can have. She was the very last one. The goatess was the only ibex left of her species. When scientists discovered her, she was given 2 things: a name, Celia, and a radio collar. 9 months later, Celia's loneliness was over. After many years of overhunting and agricultural competition with humans, her long heritage came to an abrupt end when she was crushed under a falling tree. The researchers that had fitted her with the radio collar collected her cells and began an experiment that turned science fiction into science fact. Celia's DNA was injected into emptied goat egg cells, then implanted into 57 goats of a different species. Of the herd of potential mothers, only 7 became pregnant. 6 had miscarriages. I can only imagine the scientists' excitement when one of their precious does carried a fetus full term. After a cesarean section, the Pyrenees Bucardo ibex was a living species once more, an extinct animal brought back to the world. Unfortunately, the little thing passed away after only 10 minutes. It is the only animal to have ever gone extinct twice. Carl Zimmer, who included this event on a feature he produced about extinction, said, "As Fernandez Arias held the newborn Bucardo in his arms, he could see that she was struggling to take in air, her tongue jutting grotesquely out of her mouth. Despite the efforts to help her breathe, after a mere 10 minutes, Celia's clone died. A necropsy later revealed that one of her lungs had grown a gigantic extra lobe, as solid as a piece of liver. There was nothing anyone could have done." It is a sad chapter in an already sad story, but it's not the end of the story. Celia's clone was brought briefly into the world in 2003, using what is now considered, quote, crude life science tools, unquote. These tools, crude as they may be, opened a door of mind-numbing possibility. Nearly 20 years after Celia, research advances have greatly sharpened our techniques. In February of this year, scientists in Cheyenne, Wyoming duplicated a black-footed ferret using cells from an animal that was 30 years dead. The black-footed ferret is one of the most endangered mammals in North America, but its population is on the rise. Other species, like the extinct passenger pigeon, are in line to be cloned themselves, and, like the Pyrenees picardo, be brought back to life, hopefully for much longer than 10 minutes. Of course, these experiments have raised a slew of ethical questions as they've become more prominent. But for the black-footed ferrets and passenger pigeons, the news is all good. They've danced with the brink of extinction, even fallen in. Who knew there was a rope ready to pull them out again? Number 2, coelacanth, the discovery of a 400 million year fish. 400 million years is a long time. It's the kind of number we wish we could use to describe our bank accounts. It's also the amount of time that has passed since a certain animal, the coelacanth, was believed to have made its debut in the fossil record. Fossils describe the coelacanth as a very unique fish. Its fins were fleshy, comparable to the limbs of land animals, and scientists consider it a mile marker in the evolution of fins to legs. The fish also had a hinge in its skull that allowed them to open their mouths to enormous widths, a feature that you don't see in any of today's animals. They were huge, with lengths reaching up to 6.5 feet and a weight of about 200 pounds. Coelacanths were believed to have appeared in the Carboniferous era. If you've ever visited a museum of ancient life, recall the displays that feature swampy marshlands, enormous bugs, and the freaky-looking fish with big mouths and strangely shaped heads. This is the coelacanth's birthplace. It's also friggin' forever ago, like pre-dinosaur era. But, as with so many other animals, the coelacanth appeared to die in the same mass extinction that killed the dinos. Press the skip button a few 100 million years to the 1930s. Now, instead of centipedes the size of your dad, we've got cows, house cats, and a strange fleshy animal called human beings. One of these human beings, Marjorie Courtenay Latimer, worked at a museum in a small South African town, where she was frequently summoned by fishermen to help identify strange and rare species they tangled in their nets. 2 days before the Christmas of 1938, her expertise was requested at the docks. Captain Hendrik Goosen had caught a whopper, and neither he nor Marjorie had ever seen the likes of it. "It was the most beautiful fish I had ever seen," Marjorie said. "It was 5 feet long, a pale mauvey blue, with faint flecks of whitish spots. It was covered in hard scales, and it had 4 limb-like fins, and a strange little puppy dog tail." After much deliberation, Marjorie only had one reasonable conclusion. This was a coelacanth, a living one. Well, at least it had been living a few days ago, much more recent than the 65 million years ago, when they were believed to have gone extinct. Marjorie sent word to a Professor Smith, a university lecturer who specialized in marine life. The telegram the professor sent back would become famous. Most important, preserved skeleton and gills equals fish described. Soon, Professor Smith would confirm that this fish was indeed a coelacanth. The science had been wrong. We now know more about the coelacanth than we ever could have from their fossil record alone. They were slow-moving fish, with eyes that have become foggy from spending their days 500 to 1,000 feet below the ocean surface. There is still very little we know about them, and their size, their mystery, and their heritage lends them a rare, spectral beauty. These fish are one of the only species to experience a mass extinction and survive. Sadly, they are now facing a new extinction, the same one that Galapagos tortoises and Pyrenees picardos faced and lost. Coelacanths live in a handful of small pockets around the ocean, and are now considered a threatened species thanks to advancements in deep-sea trawling, which is a fishing practice that scrapes the bottom of the ocean, killing many rare species and damaging their fragile habitats. In August 2018, the announcement of a new oil drill off the coast of South Africa revealed the true plight of the coelacanth. It's believed that fewer than 30 individuals live in the pocket near the oil site, and that drilling could easily wipe out every last one of them. There are two varieties of coelacanth. With less than 10,000 individuals, the Menendoensis variety is considered vulnerable. With less than 500 Calumnae individuals remaining, this variety is considered critically endangered. Number 3. Baiji, the goddess of the Yangtze, may return. In China, there is a river. In that river, there were dolphins. The Yangtze River in China is the third longest in the world and began to crowd with economic development in the 1950s. However, before the increased boat traffic, agricultural residue, and human alterations began to shape the river itself, a dolphin called Baiji swam the waters. It was known as the goddess of the Yangtze, and it had graced the depths of the river for 20 million years. Considered one of the oldest freshwater mammals, Baiji carried remnants of ancient times, such as a 3-compartment stomach. Baiji were the last surviving members of the mammal family Lepotidae, but as you may have guessed, the development of the Yangtze River was forcing the Baiji population to a critical low. Not only was pollution and overfishing killing the Baiji, but carcasses of the once sleek and graceful creature were surfacing with fatal mutilations caused by passing boats.
The first dolphin surveys in China were conducted in the late 70s and early 80s, and by this stage already the population had fallen to only around 400 animals. By the end of the 20th century, there were possibly only 13 wild dolphins left in the Yangtze.
That was Dr. Sam Turvey of the EDGE Conservation Program. The Baiji had become his top priority.
The EDGE program was established in order to conserve species which are highly threatened, but which also have very few close relatives. They're one of a kind, so if they die out, there'll be nothing like them left on Earth.
He and his team had a plan. They would travel to the Baiji's habitat, retrieve a pair of the last Baiji dolphins, and breed them in captivity to help keep the species alive. The team boarded 2 separate boats equipped with telescopes and a system that would detect the dolphins' echolocation. For 6 weeks, EDGE searched the Yangtze River for the pair of dolphins that could save the species. They didn't detect a single one. It was too late. The Baiji, and the entire Lepotidae mammal family with it, was extinct. Nearly a decade later, a boat of amateur Chinese conservationists bobbed on the glinting, murky water of the Yangtze. The team was on day 5 of a 7-day Yangtze expedition, scouring the river for any signs that the goddess of the Yangtze was still swimming its waters. That's when they saw it. First, a white dot puncturing the river's surface. Soon after, a white light broke past the water, slid back under, and swam towards the river's eastern bank. No other creature could jump out of the Yangtze like that, said the leader of the crew. They were convinced they'd seen a Baiji. It should be noted that this team of conservationists were not Baiji experts. They had day jobs that had very little to do with critters and rivers. However, they and local fishermen said that they were 100% sure this was the Yangtze's river goddess. The baiji is not the only animal who may have been spotted after its so-called extinction. In Tasmania, a unique animal called the Tasmanian tiger once prowled the underbrush. It resembled a wild dog with the face of a fox and was comparable to a medium dog in size. It had a pouch to carry its young, and its most notable feature were the stripes spanning its back and haunches, not unlike the garb of a tiger. This Tasmanian beast was considered a pest and was mercilessly hunted. In 1936, when the only surviving tiger died in captivity, so did the species. However, natives still occasionally scratch their heads in wonder when they spot what appears to be a dog-like, striped-back critter slinking into the safety of the underbrush. Since their alleged extinction, more than 400 sightings of the Tasmanian tiger have been reported. I don't doubt that many more have occurred off the record. Of course, a baiji sighting by sincere but amateur conservationists and 400 unphotographed glimpses of the Tasmanian tiger do not constitute concrete evidence for each species' survival. Even in search of silver linings, we must admit that animal lovers with high hopes may interpret mysterious appearances with a little more pizzazz than accuracy. However, to find a living animal that has been declared extinct is not just the stuff of fantasy. Many species have been rediscovered decades or even epochs since they were declared extinct. The tree lobster, the goblin shark, the night parrot, and of course the coelacanth were all believed to be extinct until members of the species were discovered alive and well many years later. They are just a handful of these examples. Perhaps that amateur expedition did see the goddess of the Yangtze leaping above the surface to hint that it was still blessing the waters. And maybe some of those Tasmanian tiger sightings weren't just the neighbor's lost dogs or an oversized fox. Maybe, just maybe, these precious creatures are still out there. That is the end of today's stories. Now we invite you to join us for our weekly Silver Liners Challenge, which is designed to be an easy, actionable step that you can take to help boost your week and help you survive hell. Here it is, the Silver Liners Challenge. Pay a little more attention to the nature around you this week. Try and appreciate what you've taken for granted. Next year, it might not be here. Feel free to share your experiences in the comments of our website, www.survivorsguidetohell.com, or on our Facebook page. If you'd like to see the videos and pictures that often accompany our episodes, like pictures of the extinct animals, once again, check out our website, where you'll also find much more information, including our storytelling code of ethics. We're always looking for cool news stories. If you have something to share, please visit our site and drop us a line. And remember, if you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and other streaming platforms. When you subscribe, you no longer have to go searching for episodes. They'll be delivered right to the place you listen to your podcasts. Simply open the app or website you use, find our podcast, and click the subscribe button. You'll also be helping to support us as we spread our good vibes. If you like Survivor's Guide to Hell and would like to contribute some fuel for our fire, then you're already on the right track. Just listening is the best thing you can do. We've also seen amazing results when our listeners share our episodes with others. If this episode made you think of someone, send it their way. They may be grateful for it, and we will be too. Last but not least, our cheesy joke of the week. What is the best way to understand what dolphins are trying to say? Listen to their podcast. See that? A dolphin joke and a podcast joke. Pretty good, right? One more brief announcement. At Survivor's Guide to Hell, we value quality over quantity. We're always learning how to bring you better audio, better stories, and better music. So thanks to some recent information, we've decided to begin publishing our podcast every other Wednesday so that we have the time we need to create even better episodes with even better content. That means our next episode will debut on the 28th of July. We are so excited to see you then.